everything to do with crowdfunding, and that's probably my biggest advice, is to research absolutely everything. So everybody on our team, we had about 4 or 5 people at the time, we had spreadsheets for every different type of aspect of crowdfunding, so other campaigns, what they did well, what they didn't do well, if they had any bad PR, why they were getting it. So a lot of campaigns will have really bad press when they're late on their deliveries, or if the lack of communication with their backers. Also, the campaign videos are a huge aspect to the campaigns. So if there were some campaign videos that we noticed were really boring, why were they boring and what could they do better? And also what videos were really good and why were they good? So our first video gained over 1 million views in 6 weeks, and the biggest reason for that is because it didn't have a lot of language and it was just really intuitive. So you could watch it without any sound and still get it. So it's really shareable on Facebook. And so that was one of the things that we kind of wanted to do with our new video as well, is just kind of find out different aspects of what will make it shareable and what will make it, what will make people want it. So also, a lot of campaign videos that are over 5 minutes long tend to lose, the drop-off rate's a lot higher. And so we wanted to keep our new video as short as possible. And another thing that was really overlooked was like campaign structure. You wouldn't expect that to be a huge thing, but the structure of like the actual story, if you go to Indiegogo, it's like you scroll down, it's like the order where do you put the product features, where do you talk about, and where do you talk about each aspect of your product is pretty vital to people actually staying engaged. So we wanted to do 3 main call to actions and 3 main selling points for the drummy. So ours was that it was money saving, it was economic or eco-friendly, and that it was small. Oh no, sorry, that it was electricity free. So we wanted to keep repeating that throughout the story so that you really got it, because we didn't want to have too many like selling points like, oh, it does this and it does this and it does this, because then people get kind of confused and they won't remember it as well. And then we also began looking into social media content calendars. So how do the really successful campaigns like Flow Hive, for example, how did they do so well? They had like $8 million on their Indiegogo campaign or something. So we looked at their like social media structure, like what were they doing on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And so we really wanted to look at like those aspects as well. And we also, so in September we began our preparation. So our actual video, we teamed up with a production company, and they helped us with our campaign video, our storyboarding, and we did different locations and stuff like that. And then we're also playing around with the pricing of the drummy, and that was probably the toughest, was the actual price of the drummy and also the shipping prices. That was something that's really tough, is deciding on a product that's not completely finished, how much it's going to cost to ship to, say, Mexico. That's something you just don't really think of, and a lot of companies won't want to give you an actual quote, especially when the delivery date's a year in advance, because the quotes are always changing. So that one's a really tough thing to decide, and we're still trying to play around with our shipping quotes, to be honest. And then we also began the preparation with the graphics and also different perks. So one thing with the perks with crowdfunding is you don't want to have just the one, you want to have different levels. And so we partnered up with another company, so we did some cross-promotion, which I highly recommend. So we chose an eco-friendly detergent company called Earthberries. So they're like a little dried husk of a berry. And so that would be like our lowest one. So if someone wanted to contribute to our campaign, but they only wanted to pay like $20-25, they could use that perk, and then they would get some detergent. And then we also had like a starter pack where you get the drummy and the Earthberries, and it was about $30 more than our actual perk price of just the drummy. And then we also played around with our pricing strategy. So we had early bird pricing of $199, and then also another one of $239, and another one of $259. So we played around with different levels of the same product to see what was like the highest point that people would pay. We also had one $299, and absolutely no one bought it. So we realized that was too expensive. And so that was a really good way, because we were able to just test our pricing, because that's essentially what crowdfunding is all about, is experimenting to make sure that you actually have a market.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. So when you mentioned like $199, $299, basically that is the cost of the product, and
yeah.
How long before you determine whether people are buying it, interested or not?
So we found out immediately when people selected the perk and they bought it, then we can see if they bought it or not. So that was how we were able to tell. And so when it was $1.99, they went pretty quickly, but then when it was $2.39, we were noticing the sales were slowing down. And so as it was getting more expensive, they were slowing down. And so we would add more of the lower prices. And guys, if you have any other questions as well, just feel free to stop me and just kind of ask away.
I have a question about how you guys decided on how much the product was going to retail for. So you have your cost of goods, how much it costs,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. What other things did you guys take into account?
So it was actually really tough for us. When we first launched, we sold it at $129, having absolutely no idea how much the product was actually going to cost to manufacture because we weren't finished yet.
Yeah.
And so now the retail price is suggested to be $2.99 US because we were getting a little bit more idea of the actual cost to manufacture. So it's not actually how much it is for the materials and stuff, but it's also the tooling and molding for us. I think for your case, it might be a little bit different with like fabrics and materials, but then it's also the labor cost. Packaging cost as well, I think is around $2 per unit. And then it's also, you have to look into like the translating services and just like there's so many things with under cost of goods. And then there's also the operating sales as well, or cost of operation as well. So it's like if you have employees, rent, and stuff like that. So then with our campaign launch, we ran it for 2 months. And our goal was $100,000. And our main plan for that was advertising, social media, research, PR, and internal media outreach. So we didn't really have too much of a PR plan, and that's something that I would recommend. We thought that because we had so many, we had about 10,000 likes on Facebook and around the same amount for our mailing list. So we thought we'd just blow it out of the park in the first day. We did hit our 30%, we did 30,000 on our first day, which is great. They do say that if you don't do 30,000 on your first, or 30% on your first day, you're not going to achieve your goal. But it wasn't as much as we were expecting because we were getting so many emails a day. And the main reason is because the price was higher than a lot of our markets. So now the pre-campaign advice that I can give you is, again, research absolutely everything. Like you can never stop researching, even during the campaign. Like I was creeping all of our backers on Facebook to see if there was a common interest and stuff. Like I kind of wanted to see who they were and how they live and their lifestyles. I know it's super creepy, but I mean, their profiles are there for a reason, you know? And so I had like a little spreadsheet and just doing like the interest that I found, and like if they were like posting a lot about like gardening or something, I noticed that was a common thing. And also like Google Street Viewing their shipping address. See what kind of, okay, it sounds really creepy, but it's actually not. Because one thing that I learned, because our initial target market were people living in urban areas, but then I was finding a lot of farmhouses, and I didn't really know why, and then I realized it was because they relied on wells. And then with well water systems, it's like you have, like especially in the summers, you have to find ways to save water, because that's how much water you're going to get, or else you're pretty screwed. Yep.
So it is not creepy at all, right? So in business, we are told that all the big companies who are successful do this thing what Megan is doing. They call it analytics. It is it
exactly.
is the same, but like it is trying to find out more information about your customers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just the more you know, the easier it is to market to them. And it's just the research is always just, you can never, like I'm still researching people and I'm going through, I'm not necessarily researching the backers as much, but I'm kind of more looking into the comments that I see, like when people share it, like what are their friends saying about us. But then also another thing for the pre-campaign is having a solid PR campaign. So you don't have to go with a PR firm, and especially what I found in Toronto, where there are a lot of PR firms that say they specialize in crowdfunding, but then I wasn't as pleased because we did it halfway through the campaign when we were noticing that it was starting to fall off a little bit. So we decided to go with a PR firm, and we were extremely unhappy with it. They were like a lot of the PR that I was getting, they were saying they were getting, that it was like them, and it was just like, it was a disaster. So you don't have to necessarily have a PR firm, but if you do, make sure you have like a good relationship with them, and you start planning about a month before. So you have a good relationship with them. you also do like media tours and stuff, and you have an embargo. And so what that is that none of the writers that have agreed to write about you write before a certain date. So then you have a launch. So then all of the writers will write on the exact same day, and it'll just knock, like no matter where people look online especially, they'll be seeing an article.
Quick question. Were you guys, after the launch, were you guys able to get actual metrics on what the first launch, like the total number of views on all the different outlets? Were you guys able to get like actual, I don't know.
Before or during the launch,
like do you have a good idea of in the first week, like this 100,000 number of people's, I don't know.
I actually don't think we really looked at it too much. I know the
Okay.
sales, but then not so much the traffic
The traffic to
we never really looked into that too much, to be honest.
Okay.
So in a PR campaign, do you want the PR firm or whatever to keep on hitting customers regularly, or do you want one big bang, like one day you are everywhere? What approach?
I find the best way to do it is to do get as many media outlets to do on the one day, because then the smaller ones generally jump on the bigger ones. So then, for example, when we were covering the Huffington Post, we had like 10 other versions of the Huffington Post in different countries. So there was like a Huffington Post, but it's like in Hebrew, and they were just kind of copy and pasting like whatever they said, and they just translated it. And so I would definitely say all of them at the same time, because then it leads to so many more. But then we actually, like, I don't think you need a PR firm unless you're spending a decent amount on it. Some PR firms, and I know there's one in Montreal, but I don't have the contact, they'll do a commission base, and ideally, if I had a PR firm, I would do commission. So what that means is you only pay them when they get you on the outlets. But then you can also hire someone to do the media outreach for you. So if they have contacts, and there's so many people in Toronto that already do write, and they're like looking for like media outreach jobs, and so you just hire that one person to do it for you, and it's a little bit more cost effective. But it is also more risky as well, because they're not a guaranteed firm.
So do you mind us knowing how much you guys paid the PR firm?
It's a little tricky because we ended it before our contract, just because we weren't really, we just weren't on the same page with a lot of things. So I think we had agreed to around $6,000, but I do know some will do like a monthly contract type of thing.
So it was a $6,000 one time.
Yeah, but
deal?
it was. I know that another campaign that did really well. They hit almost $1 million. They spent around $40,000, but then they made $1 million. So I mean, there are like the more you spend, generally speaking, the more you're gonna get, and the more media coverage you get, the more sales you get. So it does kind of check out. Like at first, it's tough to put it up right on the spot, but I know. Some PR firms will do it like you pay half first and you pay half after. So that would be one thing with PRs, just like you don't have to go for a PR firm, but if you do, make sure you go with a good one. And then the next advice that I'll give is make sure you prepare a great video, because it's all about your that's what your campaign is, and it'll be creating a voice for your campaign. So if people are sharing it, so we uploaded ours through YouTube so we could share it through other things, but then we also made it more of a commercial, so we used it for Facebook advertising as well. But just make it so it's shareable, so it's not, I don't know, I think, this is just my opinion though, I'm sure other people will tell you otherwise, but if you have people speaking through the whole thing and they're not really like showing the product as much, I personally don't think it's as shareable. But then if we were to change it, we would have more testimonials about our product at the end, where it's like a founder speaking, because we tried to, but then they were really awkward because we spent like 10 hours shooting and it was just like the worst thing ever, so we just didn't use it. And another piece of advice I'd give is to have an existing community. So they say that you have to get 30% of your goal within the first day, and on the first day, most of your sales will be coming from your own community. So building up a voice before your campaign and not relying on the campaign to like give you an online presence is very key. So before we launched, like I said before, we had about 10,000 likes on Facebook and around 10,000 mailing list subscribers, and that really helped us push it already because there were people waiting to get it. So we closed our online store in September, so then even if people were in North America, they still couldn't get the drummy until our launch date. So then we had people waiting and we had like the anticipation. So what I would recommend is having like to build that existing community, maybe having like a little video going out introducing your product and then sending people to a waiting list, waiting for the campaign. That's something that I'd highly recommend. So then every time someone inquired to pre-order the drummy, we just sent them to the mailing list. So then we sent like a notification to 10,000 people letting them know they can buy it. And that was probably the best. Like I would say that was the most successful part of our campaign, was the fact that we had an existing community. And some more advice would be, again, just understand your end users. They might be different than your initial target market, but that's okay. Like for us, we were like kind of weirded out the fact that not as many people in urban areas were buying the drummy as much as we thought, because we had a lot of people in like suburban houses and we didn't really know why, because it was also like the farmers, and it was just like the weirdest like areas were like pre-ordering the drummy, and it wasn't like the initial like niche markets that we thought. And then also when we went viral, we noticed so many different markets. Like somebody in Australia is building a mobile home out of a bus, and they needed the exact dimensions of a drummy because they were building it by hand. I don't know. So it's like you will find the weirdest niche markets for your product, and so I would highly recommend to like utilize them, because like also emergency preppers, there are people mostly in the States who are ready just for the government and the grid to go down. They're ready to run for the hills, but they're one of our biggest markets right now. So it's like some of these niche markets, there is like huge markets to penetrate, and a lot of people don't think to do it, but then they're also pretty responsive on like Facebook advertising. So use it, like testing out the different markets you can use through Facebook advertising, which I highly recommend. So you do like the same ad to like different people. So it's like I'll run like 4 different ads, or like it'll be the exact same ad, but it'll be like to different markets. So say it'll be like campers, and then the emergency preppers, tiny houses, or people living in urban areas. And then you can kind of see which people are actually visiting your website through that ad.
Yeah.
And then also that can go in different ways as well. So you do one audience, but you'll do 3 different ads to see what type of ads they're more responsive to.
Yeah.
And that really helps. And then also, before you launch your campaign, make sure you have a working prototype. That was probably our biggest downfall, is the fact that we had a prototype and it kind of worked, but it wasn't the final product. And it prevented us from getting a lot more media coverage than we could have had. So a lot of people will ask, like a lot of media outlets will ask to do product reviews, and they'll want to actually use it. And then also a big way to market a product is using influencers. So people that are like YouTube or Instagram famous. It's a huge way to market a product. It's probably, in my opinion, that and native advertising, like sponsored ads, are like the best way to market a product. And we weren't able to do that. So we have a huge list of people that want to do it as well, but we have to wait. And so that would be my biggest recommendation.
You should get Jenny Marbles to advertise your company.
Yeah, like there's just so many people that I could do, and it's like especially
Jenny
the niche
Marble,
market.
it's your
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah, she would go crazy just kind of pumping it. She'd get her dogs to try and flip out a washing machine or something, I don't know. And then another thing as well would be to have solid dates and deadlines, because when you're preparing for the campaign, you're never going to feel ready. Like even when I was pressing the launch button, I was like, we have to do so many things. But you can always go back and edit the story and stuff if you don't have it completely done. But when we were first planning on doing crowdfunding, our ideal launch date was August 15th, and we didn't launch until November. So it's like you will end up pushing things back, but especially with like the research and creating the content, just give yourself a lot more deadlines and like setting goals, because time will fly. And it's like, and then November, like ideally I would have wanted to launch it in a better season than November through December, because then we had the Christmas rush, and a lot of people didn't want to buy that for Christmas because of the delayed delivery. So it's like, but then we didn't want to launch during January to February because that's when people are spending the less of the year just because they're all in debt from Christmas. And so there's just different, like you have to think about the timing of the launch. But then we just decided it was mostly me too because I was sick of having to talk about Indiegogo but without launching it. So I'm like, okay, we're launching on this day. And then we just kind of pulled up our socks and got everything done. Because it's really easy to push things back consistently. And so for during the campaign, some advice that I would give is constant communication. So some people will tell you that the emails should be distributed through everyone on the team and everyone kind of answers specific emails. Like someone will do the technical emails about the product and then someone will do the refunds. I would recommend against that. And the easiest way to do it, because you will be receiving hundreds of emails a day. It's a fact. And so the easiest way that we did it, especially because we went viral once already and I was having 12-hour days responding to hundreds of emails a day, I kind of already knew how to handle the volume. But doing an email template, because you'll get 20 emails in a row of the exact same when's the drumming gonna deliver? And it's all over, but people don't read. They just want to they'll probably spend 10 minutes trying to find your email, but then they'll even though it's they'll take 2 seconds to find their answer.
They have an app where you can organize your own email, and then who wants to order? I'll talk to you about it.
Oh, okay. But we had what we did was we had a Google Doc of just email templates. So it's you just copy and paste the answer of when the drumming will deliver, what colors it comes in, and stuff like that. So we just it was super user friendly. We just had and we actually hired someone to come on board for customer relations. So she was spending every day just doing the same emails, and it would take her her entire shift pretty much.
So that was all before you launch your website, because I go to your website, I see all that things in FAQs and all that.
Oh, we
right?
still hide FAQs, but they still
okay.
People, even if it's on the FAQs, do not rely on people to read it because they absolutely will not.
Okay.
People do not read anything.
Okay.
You can have it plastered 20 times on your homepage and people will still ask you the same question. It just happens. So the easiest way to answer them without getting angry is just to copy and paste. And another thing that I would recommend during the campaign is to ask questions and get people engaged on your campaign. So we would send out mailing lists being where are you going to use your drumming? And so people love answering questions, and they also love it when you listen to them. So also we did a vote on introducing a new drumming color, and we gave them a vote. So it's either all white, white and charcoal, or another color, I can't remember. But then they got the white and silver, and so everyone was so excited when we actually introduced that as a new perk. So they kind of love it when you actually answer or listen to their questions. And another thing would be to do in-person events and opportunities to actually see the product. We weren't really able to do this as much, but I know another campaign did, and so he was a speaker, an actual icon. Yeah.
Are you guys gonna be at the Green Living Show in 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, and so I can give the coupon code to CG. I can give you guys free tickets online if you want. I also have 1,000 hard copies, so you just let me know and I'll give them to all your family. But we will do we have done in-person trade shows as well. If there were trade shows during the campaign, by all means we would have done them. But November and December it's a lot of Christmas stuff. But trade shows are really good because we can test markets. So the Green Living Show was when we started, but we've also done the Baby Time Show and the National Women's Show. And we thought that the Baby Time Show would be a hit because there'd be a lot of cloth diapers and but absolutely not. Mothers are I have 3 kids, I'm not spending any more time on my feet.
What about the yoga show?
The yoga and wellness show is coming up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think, we're actually not doing that one because we'll be in the Cottage Life show.
Yeah.
Instead.
In Mississauga, right?
Yeah. So we'll be at that one. Again, I think for a while after that we're going to try and do some in the States because we've just done a lot of Toronto-based trade shows, so we kind of want to expand our horizons a little bit. And some more during campaign advice I'd give is having new content throughout your campaign. So don't reveal, like it's pretty much not to reveal all your cards right away. So if you show all your perks that you can possibly do right away, then people won't be checking back. But we did like a Black Friday sale, for example, so then people would come back to see if we had any like exclusive offers that would only be a few days. And then we also did some promotions, deals, and additional perks. So then that would be having people coming back to your campaign again. And then also with the content, it would be like for social media as well. Like don't put all of your photos on the campaign right away. You want to save some for like a Throwback Thursday or something like that. And just like getting like just showing that you have more stuff than just like a few renderings.
Question.
Yep.
How well do you think referral codes work?
Referral codes, so we actually tried that. We did, and for us it wasn't too, we didn't have too many people referring it. So, and it was kind of tough to gauge if they actually like worked or not. So, because like if someone uses the link, they can get it, but then it might be that, like say I posted it on my Facebook and then you saw it, but you Googled it, you wouldn't be able to track it as my referral. But I think it's worked really well for other campaigns. Like I know we had a campaign strategist that worked with us, and she was really pushing it as well, because it's really interesting to see like the most random people will get so many clicks to the campaign, so you can see how many visits they got. But I think it was really good for us. A lot of our engagers weren't really into it, but I think it depends on your product for sure, because it could be that our price point is pretty high. So then if the price point was high or lower, then it would be way easier to get their friends to buy it. So I'd highly recommend trying it out for sure. And that's a really good thing to do like halfway through the campaign, because you want to think of like different ways to like get your backers to kind of post about you and get excited. And yeah, it's just for us, I think we tried to do it with bloggers as well, but a lot of people weren't really into it. I don't know, but but everyone else has told me differently that referral programs are really good. So I would recommend doing them, even though people don't really like ours. But maybe it's because like it's tough too, because you have to think of what they get. So then if they get like 1 or 2 referrals, they should get something. But then if they get like 5 or 10, and so I know there was a few people that were just constantly asking like, oh, if I made a sale, if I made a sale, if I made a sale. And it's like, no, sorry. Or it's like, oh, you only had 2, so we'll give you soap nuts or something. So they were kind of expecting like a drummy really easily, but we didn't want to lose too much money from it. With that though, which I did just remember was one of our perks that we did was a non-for-profit one as well. So just kind of added like a higher perk. So for $100 extra, we would donate a drummy to a Toronto-based organization called New Mom Project, where they like donate like baby necessities to young families who don't really have much. And then for that incentive to spend $100 extra, they're getting the drummy earlier by about 2 months, I think. So then that would be kind of an incentive to just give like more levels to your perks, and it also kind of shows that you want to give back to the community as well. And it's also good for PR. Like our organization was really small, but it was such a good fit because it was a Toronto-based one, and then it was also with baby necessities and I'm assuming that if it's a young family who doesn't have a lot, they probably don't have their own washing machine. So it just kind of works out. And then some other during campaign advice would be always to have a backup plan, because something somewhere will go wrong. It's bound to happen. And yeah. So crowdfunding benefits would be, that I found, was that it was really easy to open our orders internationally because we had absolutely no idea what we were doing. And we didn't really know, because we were using Wix as a web hoster, and so the e-com was kind of tough to like figure out like the different countries and stuff. So it was also a really easy way to facilitate a large number of orders and have them really well organized. And it was also a make-to-order basis. So you don't have to order like 2,000 of your product and then have only 500 people buy it. So like we know exactly how many we need to buy in order to ship. Mm-hmm.
So, so you do just-in-time manufacturing? Like once you get the order, then you decide how much to order, or like you have an inventory with you and then you decide to sell?
Yeah. So We have our pre-orders, and so then we just know exactly how many we need to make. We're making more though, just so we have more for inventory in the future, because another one I was going to say is market validation. So now that we know there's a market for it, now we can start mass producing. And it's a really good way to like gain a better understanding of your markets, who they are and who's responding to it, before you actually go into production and start looking into distribution channels. And another benefit that I found for Indiegogo was it was a really good way to communicate with our backers. So we can send like an update on our on our campaign just directly through to all of our backers. So if we have an update of where we're at in production, if we want them to fill out like a satisfaction survey, we're able to just kind of communicate with them really easily. And it's really good for convenience and clarity. So as a startup, it's really tough to just kind of open up the fact that you need investment. And so when you're doing crowdfunding, it's pretty obvious that, and it just like allows you to be open about seeking investment. And it's also a great opportunity to be introduced to investors and entrepreneurs as well, because you're automatically put into like the startup community even more so, and people can kind of see it.
So, because of your campaign, have investors come and approach you guys directly?
I mean, I want to say yes, because we were kind of getting a lot of people approaching us before, because we already had the exposure. But then because we were on Indiegogo, we were openly saying that we needed like about 100,000. Then they were kind of like more willing to like open up the conversation, because we also said why we needed it. Another way that helped us open up the conversation was we had a feature about us from the Globe and Mail that was like literally like the drummy needs investment, and then so that was like, so then it's kind of tough because they ran at the exact same time, and so yeah, so that kind of like they kind of go hand in hand, but it reached out to a lot of people, and then that just kind of reminded me as well with people just kind of like opening up the conversation. When you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, you will get marketers, like 10 or 15 people a day trying to market your product for you, and like a lot of them will just kind of, they're all talk, and it's also the same with distribution. So don't take everyone seriously. And also they'll be like, oh, like I specialize in crowdfunding marketing, and it's like there are so many of them, and they're all very spammy. So I'm just going to warn you right away, just off the top of my head. And then another benefit to crowdfunding is that you're able to experiment. So with pricing, promotional, and business strategies, so you can, like I said, we had like a lot of different levels of our product price, so we knew what was too expensive and what just kind of flew off the shelf. And then it was all without like dumping our savings. So then we had like, we did put money into the campaign, but it's not like we had to, like I said, like mass produce in order to like not sell as many as anticipated. And yeah, that's about it. Again.
What drove you to start or work on this idea?
I came on board right before Yi was ready to introduce the drumming to the public. So he had spent about 2 or 3 years actually developing it and finding out. So first it was kind of like shaped like a box, and then he just kind of kept finding out like what technology worked the best. And then I came on board. I actually came on board as a social media coordinator, and I thought I was kind of just going to be like running a jokes Twitter account about a foot-powered washing machine, but it kind of blew up like way out of proportion. But it was just really interesting to see a product that had absolutely no presence just gain it so quickly, and it was probably the most rewarding thing is just like people actually loving this little machine. Yeah.
What are some of the cons of doing crowdfunding?
Some of the cons would be, that's a good question.